Again, welcome to News and a Comment. I'm Larry Gordon, coming to you live from the offices of the Five Towns Jewish Times here in Cedarhurst, New York. Coming to you intermittently, day to day, usually when something special happening in the news, which you can argue is constantly. Also, when we have a special guest passing through town that stops by to say hello and to bring us up on the latest going on in their lives. This gentleman with me is a very good friend, Ron Jager. He lives in Israel. He's a retired officer from the Israel Defense Force, 25 years in the medical corps. He was stationed in Lebanon in the, I guess it was the 1980s, right?
Early 1980s.
Early 1980s, into the mic.
Mhm.
Early 1980s, and he's a columnist in the Five Towns Jewish Times. You see him on Aretz Sheva and other intellectually oriented websites and newspapers around the world. So there's a lot I want to talk to you about, Ron, as a retired officer in the IDF. But first, give me your best impression of President Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal and how you think it's going to impact Israel over the short term.
Well, Larry, thank you for having me here. As you know, the best defense is offense. And what we're learning from President Trump's recent actions
Kept
is
talking
that
to the
he's
mic.
keeping the Iranians on their toes and unsure of what to expect, and it's working to our advantage. As you probably heard, last night, proxy forces from Yemenite tried to attack with missiles Saudi Arabia. And so, if anybody's looking for a reaction on the part of the Iranians, that's really the reaction. They will most likely attack Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and maybe even Jordan, but I doubt very much they'll be attacking Israel.
Well, you see, the of course the Trump decision is has broad support in the United States, but it has a great deal of vocal criticism as well. Usually through the mainstream media because they dominate the major networks like CNN and the ABC, CBS, and the other networks, MSNBC, and so on down the line, Reuters, and they're generally liberal oriented, which usually means that they're going to be directing blistering criticism against the president. But these situations have to unfold and have to play themselves out to be able to see what the decision was really based on. It's not a flimsy thing about just Trump fulfilling a campaign promise. It's very simplistic to think, I believe, that the only reason to withdraw from the Iran deal is because you promised during the campaign to do it. Maybe it's a low information type of explanation, but that's really just the surface of it. You have a column in this week's Five Towns Jewish Times, which will be out Thursday morning. Tell me about the column.
Well, I'll tell you exactly how it came about, and it relates to what you just mentioned just now, and that there's this humongous gap between what people are told by headlines and by broadcasting networks and what they sense in their gut, what they sense is the right thing or the thing that they believe in. And when I saw Natalie Portman rejecting the Genesis Prize
Mhm.
because she said it didn't want to be seen as an endorsement of President Prime
Prime
Minister
Minister Netanyahu,
Netanyahu,
right?
then I understood that this isn't really what we're talking about. We're talking about something else here. And the article deals with the hypocrisy of American Jewish liberals in how they relate to Israel. Nobody would have assumed that she's endorsing anybody, but
Mhm.
she uses that as a backdrop to say something negative about the Prime Minister of Israel.
Well, that speaks to a general problem about you are a mental health officer, right? Mental health field worker
Right.
in the IDF. So you probably are probably best qualified to understand what I'm going to say next.
I
And
have to interrupt you.
yeah,
You know, we all know what PTSD,
right.
post
Post
traumatic
traumatic
stress
stress.
disorder, but
Right.
I think in America,
Yeah.
we should call it post Trump stress disorder. And that's what people are really exhibiting here, post Trump stress disorder.
There's no question about it, but also we're a big country. Israel is 8 million people. The United States is 325 million people that we know about. It
Right,
might be 400 million people that we
right,
don't. Another
right.
70 million that are here that we don't know about. But that's a different show and a different discussion. But the media needs to communicate with the masses of people on the most superficial, simplistic, elementary level as possible. That's why they get attracted to things like Natalie Portman's criticism of Prime Minister Netanyahu. It's so thin and it's so meaningless that it's astounding. But we don't have the wherewithal or the smartness.
Right, but at the same time, there's a term in mental health in trauma that's called inoculation, and that means that soldiers become desensitized to future trauma. In the same way, the American public today has become inoculated against all of the false headlines and also all of the character assassination that's being done. People internally deal with the dissidents, and they understand they're hearing it, but they don't believe it already. They know it's not true, even though they're listening to it and they're tuning into it. They've been able to differentiate between the truth and what's being broadcasted as truth.
I think that one of the big differences in our systems, both here in our operating systems, both here in the United States, and it's true in Israel as well, because Israel is just a reflection of everything I think that takes place here in the United States. But I think that this just trying to they conflate, if you will, and confuse the fact that what the political motivation is for doing something and what the best thing is to actually address a situation. For example, take Iran. That's fresh in everyone's mind. Okay, you withdraw from the deal because Iran is taking advantage of it. They're not keeping to the agreement. They're supporting terror around the world. But those that support the deal have to support it not because it's smart to withdraw from the deal. It's because the person of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is withdrawing, they have to oppose it.
Right.
And what the better good for America or the world is completely neglected.
Right. I would remind everybody out there that America has other allies other than Israel, Saudi Arabia, for example. And Saudi Arabia is at the forefront of the conflict against the Shiite world, which is represented by Iran. So maybe somebody should ask, what are the other allies outside of Israel? And they'll be surprised to hear that all of America's allies in the Middle East support abrogating the agreement because it doesn't serve not their interest. And as John Bolton said yesterday, it doesn't serve American interest. So you don't keep an agreement to save face for President Obama. You keep an agreement intact because it serves American interest, and obviously it doesn't.
But unfortunately, that's what it's become. That's exactly my point. It's become political loyalties. Trump, so to speak, with a small t, take precedence over everything. Anyway, this is our friend Ron Jager from Israel, and you can read his column in tomorrow morning's Five Towns Jewish Times, and we'll be going over some of the content in the paper with you either later today or tomorrow morning once we hit the newsstands. Ron's on his way back to Israel.
Thank God.
You're leaving tomorrow, and we hope to see you there soon, and then eventually back here or all over there.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
Great, Ron. Thanks for coming in. This is Larry Gordon at the offices of the Five Towns Jewish Times. We'll be talking to you in our next broadcast. Have a good day.